Hi everyone, I just finished filming a book haul video, so if I look the same, that will be why. But I'm going to be filming a different video from that, in which I read one of my 5-star predictions. If you are new to the channel, you would not know this already, but if you are a returning viewer or subscriber, you would. A couple of months ago, I filmed a video where I made a bunch of 5-star predictions of books that I thought I could possibly give 5 stars to. I'm a very, very picky reader. I am a very picky rater. I don't give out a lot of 5 stars. I think I've had 3 or 4 in this entire year, and we're over 6 months into the year so far, and I've read like over 30 books, so you can tell from those statistics. The book that I was kind of most excited about in that video, and the book that kind of inspired that video, was A Theatre for Dreamers by Samson. So this is the book that I'll be reading in today's video. Fingers crossed it's a 5-star. If it's not, hopefully a 4 or a 4.5, but if it's anything lower than that, then I'll be quite devastated. As you can see, I'm already a prologue and a chapter in, just because I started this last night, but I haven't really got like a good idea of the novel yet. This book has got about a 3.6 average on Goodreads, which is not brilliant, but it's also not terrible. But the thing I'm worried about is that one of my mutuals gave it 1 star. It was 2 years ago. I don't have the exact same book taste as her, and I'm also already shocked at why she gave it 1 star, because from what I've read, even in the little chunk I have, I've noticed that the writing is very good, so I'm kind of surprised by that. I will take you along. We'll see what I give this book. If it's very, very far off a 5-star, then I might read another book in that video and see if we can aim for a better rating with that one. But for now, this is the book we'll be reading, and I'm going to go into it with as open mind as I can. I was so excited, and then I read that review and I was like, oh my gosh, this could be absolutely tragic. But yeah, this is what this book is about, if anyone's curious. So we're following Erica. She's 18 and ready for freedom. It's the summer of 1960 when she lands on the sun-baked Greek island of Hydra, where she is swept up in a circle of bohemian poets, painters, musicians, writers, and artists living tangled lives. Life on their island paradise is heady, dreamlike, a string of seemingly endless summer days, but nothing can last forever. Doesn't that sound like perfection? This book is set, like I said, on a Greek island, and it's summertime, so it's a perfect time to be reading this. My brother is also going away to a Greek island, and he is leaving me behind, so I'm going to try and escape to one myself by reading this book. It's on my July TBR, and I thought it'd be particularly fun to pick it up now because my birthday is actually on July 16th, which from when I'm filming this is this coming Sunday. Yes, I wanted to try and be reading a book that I'll be enjoying around my birthday or on my birthday or whatever. We shall see. I would love it if it was a 5-star, but I can't tell you whether it will be yet, which is obviously, you know, a given. I'm trying to not think of the 1-star review, and I'm also trying to not think of the fact that I predicted this to be 5 stars because I want to kind of give a rating that's true to how I actually feel. But I'm very excited. It sounds beautiful. It sounds like absolute dream, and I'm going to take you along while I read it and let you know all of my thoughts as we're going, and then give you a final dramatic reveal at the end as to whether it's a 5-star or not, although you'll probably manage to gather that throughout the video. But yeah, with further ado, let's get reading. Let's see what I think about this book. It is about time I give you an update. I haven't told you anything so far about how I'm finding the book, and I'm already 70 pages in, on page 69. I thought it was about time that I communicated with you an update on how I find the book so far. This is going to be a 100-page update. I did plan to read page 100 last night, but then I was like, I don't feel like reading this book. I feel like reading Sense & Sensibility, which is another book I have on the go at the moment. So I read some of that instead, and actually this worked out better because I feel like it'd be kind of crazy to like barely film any b-roll and also give you no talking clips, and then to just rock up like 100 pages into this book and be like, here's how I'm finding it. We're not quite there yet. So the whole point of this video is about whether this book is going to be a 5-star read or not, and I can tell you that it is a 5-star read. No jokes. It does feel like it could have the potential to be a 5-star read, and that's just, I've got several points I've written on my laptop and I'll run through them with you. So first of all, the prologue was really confusing, and I honestly think that it shouldn't have been there. It's set in the future and we're following our main character, but she's like an old lady and she's looking back on these kind of fragmented experiences of her life living on Hydra, the Greek island. And it was so confusing that I actually think it was completely unnecessary, and it would have been better if it had to be included if it was at the end of the novel instead, as like an epilogue kind of moment. Because without context, it's just like, what is happening? The title is explained on page 29 of the book, and when I read this bit, everything just kind of clicked. I was just like, This is one of my favourite book titles ever. I'm gonna read it to you. The port of Hydra sweeps into view suddenly. Dramatically, like a curtain has been raised between the mountains. The symmetry of stone walls and mansions imposes a perfect horseshoe around the water, where tiers of white houses rise like the seats of an amphitheatre. It's a magic trick from Barren Rock, a theatre for dreamers. So she's basically saying that Hydra, or the Bay of Hydra that you kind of, or the port that you pull into when you're taking the ferry from Greece to, like, mainland Greece to Hydra, looks like a theatre or an amphitheatre. It's like a theatre for dreamers, because dreamers would look at this piece of like rock and houses and everything like that as a theatre instead of the port that it actually is. And I think this sets the tone for the entire book. He's my friend, just like struggling right now. Sets the tone for the entire book because we're following the dreamers, we're following people on the island, a bunch of these creatives, like I said, poets, painters, musicians, writers and artists who've all travelled to this island, be able to see something more out of life in order to put that into their work. It's just, I don't know, the title just did it for me. So I first found this book by walking into a Waterstones and just browsing. I had a lot of time on my hands and I picked it up because I was drawn in by the cover, I guess, or the title, I'm not sure. This was like a couple of years ago. And I picked it up and I read the back and I was like, this sounds like perfection. I got home and I added it to my Goodreads TBR and I found out that one of the characters in this is literally Leonard Cohen, which is just like, I mean, it couldn't get better than that. Going into this book, I was just like, I'm here for the vibes and I'm here for Leonard Cohen. And so far, both the vibes and Leonard Cohen have completely delivered. I think I'm low-key like a little bit in love with him. But also what I'm surprised by is that this book actually follows a bunch of famous people who are all like living on Hydra. Leonard Cohen was and still is the most famous of the bunch, but the others have also gone on to be writers and painters and things like that. So it's really fun when you come across a name, being able to look it up and then see that person's career. I try not to spoil myself in case like I'm spoiling like a character death or a marriage or something like that. But despite being very much about the vibe and, like I said, delivering on the vibe, this book is probably particularly dialogue heavy, I would say. So it's definitely a bit more of a character driven book than it is a plot driven book, but it's just dialogue after dialogue after dialogue, and then interspersed with these really clever, beautiful descriptions in just like a couple of lines of the port or the food or like a kitchen scene or something, the land and the goat herders and everything like that. When I first saw that this book was Leonard Cohen, I was slightly nervous going into it. First of all, this is stunning, but second of all, if the author Polly Sampson writes him in a way that's not actually representative of who he is, or makes him do something that's slightly controversial or whatever, then I feel like that's really bad, because it makes people think that this is like a non-fiction account of his life, when it's completely not. It's definitely fictionalized. So I was first drawn in by him, and then I was wary that it was about him. I literally had like butterflies at his introduction, and so far it's been fine. I think as long as his character's not really overdone, then it's okay, and I think also it's good that he's not the main character. The main character is this unknown. Introductions of famous people within novels, like within fictionalized novels, often run the risk of cheapening the novel. I think it's a big risk that this author took, but actually I read the acknowledgements, which I probably shouldn't have done before finishing the book. I think it did spoil me on a couple of things, but they were going through all of her research and what she read and watched in order to gain like a proper understanding of these people in order to put them within her novel, and I really appreciate the research that's gone into it. So I think she has like been very careful with what she's done. I really like her character Erica, although we don't have a great idea of what she's actually like because she's telling you about what other people are like, but she's got a really difficult relationship with her brother currently. She has a boyfriend, he's a poet. It's very clever actually, because you can see why she was drawn in by him. He's very like conscientious with his words and the way he expresses himself, but you can also then see the inevitable kind of disappointment as he starts kind of goggling at different girls on the island and straying away from the main character a little bit in this kind of like secret history like effort for see and experience beauty, because he's an artiste. Erica and her brother, having left their abusive father in the UK, have travelled out to Hydra after the death of their mother, and I'm not sure how the mother died, but I think it was something medical, could have been cancer or something like that. But there's not a great deal about these two individual characters as in Erica and her brother, so it's just no plot, just vibe. It's kind of island living, experiencing so many different people, all kind of expats in this one place. But she does kind of slowly find out tidbits about her mother through her mother's friend, who's the person who's kind of put them up on this house on the island. This really makes me want to go away somewhere for like some extended period of time. I think it'd be beautiful to just rent a house on an island over the summertime and just be there for a good amount of time. You know, that's everyone's dream, isn't it? And the possibility of doing something like that and actually being able to afford it and maintain it and everything like that is just almost non-existent. But we can go back to the 1960s and experience it alongside these people, which I think is wonderful. So I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket, but so far so very, very good. I already have some tabs. If you can see, that's just from a few pages of reading so far. So I'll keep you updated. I'll definitely try to do more, I'm in focus good, B-roll over these next kind of 300 pages we have left. And yes, I mean, look at my annotations. I have a good feeling. Oh my gosh, Abigail. Are you kidding?
Who's that from?
Well, I think it's from Lucy. Is there a note?
Yeah.
It is.
What does it say?
Happy birthday, hope you had the best day. Maybe we could buddy read this together from Lucy. Isn't that so kind?
And it arrived on your birthday.
Friends, 200-page update. It's been a while since I last spoke to you. I'm on page 227, which is chapter 21, which means I've only got like 120 pages left of this book. Life has been absolutely mad. I had my birthday, as you saw from the previous clips, and I feel like I really haven't got a chance to like properly sit down and read this book. I'm constantly on the go. Like everyone says that summer is their like lazy season, but actually for me it's busier than the rest of the year. Right now, I don't think this is a 5-star. I think that it could possibly change within these last kind of 150 pages. There are still really beautiful scenes. I love seeing the characters interact and everything like that, but I just feel like it's just dragging a little bit. And it's not boring, but it's just like, what's the word, like monotonous? Like it's just much of the same in kind of smaller amounts. I think would have been more impactful and more kind of like impressive. And it's kind of funny because the book is not even that long. Like it's only 340 pages or something, but it's feeling like it's really dragging. And I feel like it could be like 300 pages or even less than that, maybe 280 or something, and be just as kind of interesting, or be more interesting I should say. There's still not much plot. It's very much about the vibes, but there is a lot of weight on people's romantic relationships and things to do with kind of infidelity and lots of rocky relationships, which is actually quite unenjoyable for me to read, to be honest with you, because it's not something that I generally like to read about. So kind of having this beautiful setting, really interesting people, and for us to be focusing on something like that is kind of much more mundane than I feel like the rest of the story should be. And I feel like that's the part of the blurb that was like how everything in this paradise is going to kind of fall apart, cheating basically, which I don't love. Not so great, but I think I'm probably being impacted by the fact that I haven't properly sat down and read this book. Like I really need to do more of that. So I think I'm going to try and do that with the last kind of 120 pages. I'm going to try and update you a little bit more as I read the last section. Not sure why I'm standing in the exact same place as I did for my 100-page update, because this lighting is not even good, but let's go read. Let's go finish this book. Also, I've only read one book this month, and that's just not good. It's the end of July. I've got like a week left of July and I'm crawling. We need to get this one over with so I can start another one and not be reading like one book throughout the entire month. Let's go. Ignore this weird lighting. It looks like it's going to absolutely pour outside. I've read a couple more chapters, about 5, since I last spoke to you. So I'm on page 260, and we finally had some plot, like a big shift, particularly to do with the main character. It's something that like you could have predicted, like I kind of did predict it, and there were definitely kind of Easter eggs like foreshadowing it throughout the book, but it's finally happened. And I mean, it kind of had to happen, but I'm not sure what will happen now, because it's left our main character in kind of like a little bit of a position where she could kind of travel back to England, or she could stay where she is. Kind of opened up her options, as well as being something that's like difficult for her to go through. I've got about 80 pages left. I've got it in my head that I want to finish a book today, and I've got 100 pages left of Sense and Sensibility, so I think it's most realistic to finish this one instead, also because I don't want to rush Sense and Sensibility. So I think that's what I'm going to do this afternoon. It's 3 p.m. I'm just going to read until I get sick of reading, and then finish it tonight, because I really want to start this one, One Italian Summer, because I reckon I could read this before the end of the month. Let's do some reading. finished A Theatre for Dreamers by Polly Sampson. Would have read the book with me. Here she is. And I finished it late last night. Binged like the last however many pages I had left, and I thought that we would talk through some of my feelings and I'd give you a final rating for what I felt like this book deserved now that I've kind of slept on my feelings and woken up and confirmed it. So this book has an incredibly tragic ending. There's a time jump after we've had kind of much of the same throughout the entire book. We obviously have the first section where our main character Erica and her brother travel to Hydra. But then once they're there, the big chunk in the middle of the book, the 300 pages, them just like living on the island, interacting with people, eating good food, drinking good drinks, and swimming in the sea, things like that. We have this huge time jump at the end of like a couple of years, and then of 10 years you kind of see what happened to everyone who was living on the island, and it's so tragic. It's so sad, and it's even worse when this is a true story. I think this book might have been better if the writer had kind of like broken the fourth wall and been like, this is a true story, here's what happened to these people, and she told us the facts. And then I think it would have been kind of just as like emotionally impactful, but not as just like, surprise, here's what happened to them. Described all the ways in which they died and how their careers like thrived or failed to various extents. I still agree with what I first said at the very beginning, that the first chapter, like the prologue or whatever, would have made so much more sense had it been towards the end of the book, because I just don't have any memory of what even happened in that. We were kind of brought a little bit back to it at the end. I still don't understand why it's at the front when without context it doesn't make any sense. I also think that this book probably set out to explain kind of behind the scenes of these famous people's lives. There was definitely not as much of a focus on Leonard Cohen, but I also found that it was meant to be like, here's the reason why their lives kind of ended in tragedy. But I felt like we didn't actually get any explanation. Yes, they overindulged in drinks and drugs and sex and things like that. That part didn't really have any detriment to their lives or their deaths. And even the drugs, which are like a big issue in the kind of last chapter of this book when we jump forward into the future, they were kind of only introduced like a couple of chapters before the jump. It was just like marijuana and stuff like that. It was not drugs. I mean, all drugs are not good obviously, but they were not kind of harmful drugs. They didn't explain why people then went on to be like LSD addicts and whatever. There's a line that one of the characters, Marianne, says. She's one of the people who was in like kind of a long-term relationship with Leonard Cohen and kind of came in and out of his life. I think the children paid the price for our freedom. Really, I do. They were brought up in a way that negatively impacted their own lives. But then I'm like, what was wrong with that? Like, yes, maybe they weren't brought up in like a conventional way, as in like going to English schools or interacting with many kids their age, but they're never like inappropriately brought into the adults kind of conversation or their drinking habits or anything like that. I just didn't understand the kind of progression in this book. It just was like here to here to here to here, just in jumps, without any kind of linkage, which I think was the main problem with it. But I would say that this book is worth reading simply for the vibes. The vibes are immaculate, like I keep on saying. I'm bored of that sentence, to be honest with you. They're so good. If you want to escape to a Greek island for the summertime, if you want to escape to a Greek island full stop, this is a great book for that. And I think the author had so many good ideas and what I believe was kind of great intentions, but she just delivered them in a very messy way, kind of lend itself to being a little bit boring. As for my rating, my friend is not cooperating. As for my rating, I think you can tell from all of that that this book was not a 5-star. Sad to say. I haven't had any 5 stars for a long time now, and I miss them. It would be great to have one soon. So I ended up giving this book a 3 stars. I feel bad giving it a 3 because some of the one-liners here were absolutely breathtaking, but I just feel like I have to be honest and say like this was not kind of everything I dreamed it up to be. There were definitely things that I was disappointed in, kind of confused by. So was this video a fail? I'd say no. While I'm disappointed this wasn't a 5 and I really wanted it to be a 5, I don't feel kind of this tremendous sense of disappointment. I'm glad to have kind of got it off my TBR so I can read future book that hopefully a 5-star reads. So maybe we could do one of these until I hit a 5-star. That would be kind of fun. That's all for this video. That's all for this book. I hope this video kind of made sense. I feel like it was as fragmented as the book was, simply because it was busy and also felt a little bit slumpy. What's really funny is that I definitely think it was the book and not me, because I picked up this book last night, When I Tell You Something by Rebecca Serle. I literally can't pronounce her name. I read 30 pages into it even though I was very tired, and this was just so much easier to read. So I think maybe I'm glad to have finished Theatre for Dreamers. If you did enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up so I can tell that you liked what you saw. I post videos every single Wednesday and Saturday, and if you feel like subscribing, that would be lovely. But until my next upload date, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you super soon. Bye.